The Shep Naz Podcast begins now.
Welcome to the Shep Naz Podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm your host today. Yesterday, Brett Dillinger was able to share with us our message on Sunday morning, which is a nice treat to be able to hear him. Normally, he's actually dealing with our children as our children's pastor, but today, or actually yesterday, he got to deal with the adults in the sanctuary, but he brought the flair that he would use if he was in children's ministry. So we appreciate that. So welcome in, Brett.
Thank you, Joe. Happy to be here. Hi, everybody.
We are glad that you're here. You had mentioned when we were talking about this that you kind of had, opened up with some hot takes. Give us some examples of what that means, and We'll dive in with that.
Yeah, so like a hot take is basically just an opinion that somebody has that the vast majority of people are not going to agree with. And so I started yesterday with the idea, somebody had said before that the Sermon on the Mount is like a collection of Jesus's hottest takes. Not to say that they're just silly opinions of Jesus. Obviously, this is God in the flesh that's speaking here. This is like the very... the truest thing that really can be said here. And so not to downplay the seriousness of what Jesus is saying, but the idea that what Jesus is saying is some shocking stuff that's going to stop us in our tracks and really make us be like, hang on, I got to clarify this. But I started yesterday with a little bit of fun because we always have fun in kids' church, and I fear that there might not be enough of that in the adult service, Joe. So I'm bringing it to you guys. Just sharing from the pastoral staff some hot takes, which was pretty fun. And I got to say, I don't think everybody agrees with some of these. Nick Shaner says that plain kettle chips are the best chips, which is like, I know everyone's going to be talking about like barbecue, salt and vinegar, sour cream and onion. Like you got your hot Cheetos, all the classics, but just plain kettle chips. And I said, this is the same guy that says that vanilla ice cream is the best flavor. So
yeah, statistically, I think it still wins as far as the amount sold. But
popularity contest. But that's just because it's a safe bet. It's not the best flavor.
I would say ice cream is Breyer's mint chocolate chip. That does it for me.
I was in denial about my love for mint chocolate chip for a long time, but I've accepted that it is a top tier ice cream flavor, Joe.
Well, it's specifically the Breyers.
Fair enough.
But I'm cheap, so I have to wait till it goes on sale. But it's just a little bit different than any other mint chocolate chip that you've tasted.
You got to find a good one. But there were some silly stuff in here. Zach said that you're never too old for skinny jeans.
And he's going to test that theory.
We would. If any of you would like to prove that wrong, make sure to send us a picture or come to church like that. Nice. But Joe, I want to ask you if you have any special hot takes to endear yourself to the people at home.
You could ask my family, and I think they would all probably come up with the same one.
Really?
Yeah, because this was something that I don't know what was the birth of this exactly, but I was just inspired one day, and one of my kids was asking my opinion, and they said, "What do you think?" And now anytime that somebody in my family will ask me what I think, and I understand that probably they really don't want to know my opinion, my answer is always the same. And so they will say, whatever the question, whatever the subject might be, the answer's still the same. They'll say, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think a 25-pound cat is a big cat."
Oh, I've heard this.
Yeah. And so that is like my go-to, which is just a way of saying my opinion doesn't really matter. But I will say that I have encountered a 25-pound cat. I do work in different homes from time to time. And there was a day when I actually encountered a 25-pound cat. And I can confirm that a 25-pound cat is a big
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was just a ball of fur. But
I'd be worried about it.
I made sure that I stood it up so that you could fully appreciate how big it was, and took a picture and sent it to my family with the caption that the 25-pound cat's a big cat.
Oh my goodness.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
All
Joe.
right. So as we got through to that, you actually got to the Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah.
As we're continuing the Jesus Way series.
Right.
And
Great series.
you got to be able to pick, kind of what passage you wanted. There's a lot there. So even though we're looking at this message over several weeks, everybody's able to pick a little different part. So what part were you led to share?
Yeah, so I was led to Matthew chapter 5. It really started around verse 21, but it's the heart of it is verses 23 and 24. And I kind of got here because I remember reading through this after I had been asked to preach on a Sunday while I was on sabbatical, and I was looking forward to it. I'm reading through here, and I really got stopped at verse 21 where it starts talking about murder, and it was fun that Tim asked me what I was going to be preaching on, and I was like, I think I'm doing murder, and they're like, from the children's pastor.
Yeah,
wow,
nice.
Kind of crazy, but in reading
a passage that you're struggling with yourself.
Now, for the safety of the people, Joe, we can't joke about such things. No.
Right.
But as I was reading 21 through 24, verses 21 through 24 of chapter 5, I felt the Lord specifically guiding me deeper into 23 and 24 specifically. So should I read them for us this morning?
That'd be great.
All right. It says this, Matthew chapter 5, verses 23 and 24, and this is the NIV. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First, go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. So that's pretty much the bulk of what we were talking about yesterday. And I think there are a lot of things that we can kind of take away from this. I had 3 kind of main points. So, firstly, I wanted to address, why is this so radical, right? In the Sermon on the Mount, like I said in the opening there, the teachings of Jesus are, specifically in this message, are ones that are going to make us stop and think and should make us ask questions. Now, when I was going through this, like I said, I felt the Lord leading me to this, and at first, as I said yesterday, I was like, I don't really know that this is so crazy. But I'm like, I know the heart of this sermon is really going to be not my sermon, but Jesus' sermon here in Matthew 5 through 7.
Yeah.
The heart of this sermon is like, this is the truth about things. This is what my people should look like, and it's vastly different from what you're experiencing and what you've seen and what you know. And so I was looking to see what is so radical about this teaching here. And I'm looking closer and closer, and I kind of came up with these 3 things. And it starts with the fact that, so the idea that we're supposed to leave our gift there if we remember something that our brother or sister has against us and go and be reconciled to them. Firstly, that is not an easy thing to do. To pursue reconciliation, whether it be something you need to ask forgiveness for or just something to seek further clarification for, is not a comfortable thing. It's, in fact, much easier sometimes to just kind of let those things pass by. And I had mentioned yesterday, sometimes it's really easy to just say, hey, I'll get to it, or I'll do it later, and then eventually you're like, does that person even remember that this happened? You know what? Maybe I just shouldn't even bring it up. I don't want to bring up any painful hurt from the past, and we can kind of justify pushing it aside, and so it's really not easy to go and pursue that kind of reconciliation. And then the second thing is this passage demands a certain order. And by that, I mean, specifically verse 24 says, first go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. And so when these things come to mind about things that you need to go to a brother or sister and talk about, in Jesus' message here, he says, you need to do that first. It's a priority. It's something that needs to be addressed now. It's not something that you put off. And that's pretty radical, especially considering the context that Jesus is preaching this in. Because as I said yesterday, the Sermon on the Mount, it's a hillside just very close to the Sea of Galilee. And he's talking about, in Jesus' specific example that he gives here, you're taking a sacrifice to the temple, which is in Jerusalem, and that's about 163 kilometers or 101 miles away, which is roughly a 3-day walk. And so Jesus is using kind of this exaggerating story about you're going to go take this 3-day walk, and you get there and you're like, I just remembered something that I need to handle. And the order that he's demanding here is to go and do that and then come back. And that, I think that is a pretty radical thing when you think about it in that context, because it's like, Jesus, like, I'm just going to be here for a few minutes. Like if I do
I'll take care of it later.
Yeah. And if I do it next, what bad does that do? Because like basically I'm going to be getting back there a half hour later, as opposed to if I leave right now and get there. I mean, what's the difference is it really going to make? And again, this is an exaggerated story. I mean, a lot of the times it's not, we're not a 3 days walk from wherever we need to be. But the point being that the order here that Jesus is demanding is pretty radical. First, this is a priority. Do it now.
Well, I think it's also radical in the person that's the subject of this instruction, because when we think of it, and I've actually heard this scripture kind of turned on its head and used the wrong way, because people think if I've been wronged, I need to go talk to somebody about the person that wronged me. And I think we are quick to do that. If somebody upset me, if somebody ticked me off or whatever, like I'm going to run to them and like, we're going to get this fixed because you did me wrong and I don't like the way this is going down, and we're just going to stop this right now. And so I think we are quick to do that. But I think it's radical in the sense that you're saying, if you're the person that did the wrong, you need to be running to them and saying, hey, let's get this right. And so that's like really, I've in certain circles, I've heard this used the wrong way. They've used this example like, well, I can't do anything else. They've wronged me. We need to go get this fixed. Well, that's not what this is about. This is about if you wronged somebody else, you go. You be the first to step out. Don't wait until they show up all upset and ticked off. And you go to them and make this right. And so I think that is really radical.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it stands to reason really that what we're hearing here and the heart of what Jesus is communicating is that he does not desire for division between us to last,
Right.
If I'm the guilty party here and I did something that I know I shouldn't have done, like you said, I could easily just wait and be like, hey, if they have a problem with it, they're going to come and talk to me. Or maybe I'll say, hopefully this just gets kicked to the side and nobody ever remembers it. But the fact of the matter is that if I'm never talking to them about this, I have no idea what the consequences of it are. I have no idea what this is doing to my relationship with them or their relationship with others. And so Jesus is really encouraging us in that moment to go and have it settled then. And I think the vision that this casts, and again, this is Jesus saying about what his kingdom people are supposed to look like. And I think if we extend that forward, God's people would then be a people where anytime there's any sort of disgruntlement or begrudgement between others, it is snuffed out with like quickly. It's snuffed out quickly. Any sort of division between us is something that we know, this isn't something that's good. There might be clarification that needs to take place or forgiveness that needs to be extended and received. But this division is not something that's to last in the body of Christ. We're supposed to be unified in him. And I just think it's really cool that Jesus desires that for us, right? We're not supposed to be isolated, and it's kind of cool the way that he kind of presents this message. It's like, the consequences of your action are going to be not so great. So how about we just avoid that altogether? That way you can have what will be best for you.
And so kind of revisiting the first point is that it's radical in the sense that we've got to go to those people. We need to be proactive.
Yeah.
We need to be self-aware of when we might have done something that might have offended someone or might have hurt someone, and we need to be proactive about going. And then the second point you were talking about is the order.
Right.
Especially in this example, just like you said, when you are potentially, even 100 miles now is still, I'm thinking right now of Pastor Tim,
Cincinnati.
many may not know, but he's commuting from Cincinnati right now, and so like 100 miles. And to think, even now with cars and everything, if Tim were to leave home and head to church and say, "Oh, I forgot this," he's going to just be like, "You know what? I'm just going to have to go without it today because I'm not running all the way back home just to pick up whatever it is that he forgot."
Right.
But to imagine that I was walking from Cincinnati and I get to Columbus or I get to the church and realize, "Oh, I forgot this." Well, walk back.
Yeah.
Before you do anything here, walk back.
It's wild.
And so, and the thing that they were there to do was a good thing.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, he's making the point that like you're getting ready to make your offering to God, your sacrifice to God or whatever. And that's actually a good thing that you should be doing.
Right.
But God doesn't want that until what?
Yeah, until you handle this other thing first. And that speaks to the fact of it being a priority, right? You're absolutely right that people are coming to give an offering, a sacrifice to God, spend time with him in his presence. That's absolutely a good thing. And I kind of said yesterday this idea of I kind of compared it to like when you and your spouse may have a mutual friend, like this is my personal story, mutual friends that Emma and I have. If I say something that's way out of line to them, and she's there and she hears it, then afterwards I try and talk to her and she's like, "I don't want to talk to you while you still have this thing going on with them. You were a jerk. That was not nice. Go and fix that." And until then, like, I don't even want to talk to you right now. And kind of in a way, it kind of translates that over with God being like, there's something unresolved here. I think you need to go and take care of this. Get out of here. Go do that, like now.
Well, speaking of, we're going to take a break for today's episode. And maybe as you've been listening today, something has come to your mind of maybe there's something that you need to deal with and you need to approach someone and say, "Hey," so we're saying before you do anything else today, go make that right.
Do it now.
Take your next step towards Jesus. Tomorrow, we're going to get into the third part of what he was talking about during his message on Sunday. In the meantime, after you take care of that business that you need to take care of, go to shepnaz.org to see everything that's going on with the church. Also, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For Pastor Brett, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.